How might Emma of Normandy celebrate Christmas? Join Deborah for Christmastide 11th century style. And of course, Emma's greeting of the season, Noel.
Noel, or in French, from where the word comes, Noël. For medievals, Noel was a traditional greeting like Merry Christmas in America or Happy Christmas in Britain. Noel was and is an expression of joy at the birth of the Christ child. In Latin, Mass means celebrate. So what might the celebration of Christmas, or Christmastide, have been like in Emma's day? Then as now, sights, sounds, and smells of Yuletide beckon young and old to the most wonderful time of the year. Certainly, the wealthy had as much as the season could offer, but the farmer and merchant classes had much too. Even the poorest of souls shared a bit of the abundance of the season. What might Emma have known in her childhood home of Falaise Castle in Normandy? Grandeur and character of immense Roman-style arches that spoke to the strength of the Normans, thick walls and massive columns of stone that hailed solidarity, tiered molding above grand archways carved with the zigzag design of Norman stonecutters that evoked the sea paths that brought her Viking ancestors. That is what her home looked like. The castle at Christmastide would be adorned with the unmistakable signs of the season, the sight of Yule logs glowing in a hearth fire, the sound of popping chestnuts dancing about the embers, soft laughter of servant children scurrying about amid their small tasks, flickering light from dozens of candles dyed deep red, tables decorated with boughs of evergreen, sprays of holly with their green, glossy leaves pointing to berries bright red, sprigs of mistletoe hung over each threshold, waiting for someone to pass under. For in ancient times, magical mistletoe was believed to cast spells on those who came near, especially lovers old and young. The scent of roasted meat and bubbling pork, evergreen and pine, the aroma of apples and cinnamon from Christmas puddings baking atop low fires in the castle kitchen, tables set with bowls and spoons and trays of bread and butter, wooden trenches ready to be filled with the thick, flavorful vegetables of barley soup that simmered in a cauldron in the corner of a hearth fire, and in every room the pears of Anjou, bowls piled high with the red and green fruit from the neighboring province of Anjou. Perfect complement to the colors of the Christmas season. I'd like to imagine Emma's father, Duke Richard I, taking her to pick the pears, perhaps telling her, "Emma, only pick the pears with a touch of red on the skin, for those have the sweetest fruit. They are the ones your mother will choose to make my favorite pudding. Those she will bake in the buttery crust to make your favorite tart." Upon the hearth fire mantel might be her father's favorite drinking horn, a reminder of his Viking heritage. For inside the vessel would be rows of studs set at equal distances to measure the amount of brew, a way of measure that evoked his ancestors' custom of passing the deer horn for each guest to drink down only to the stud below. But on special days, by favor of the Duke, a guest could take as much as he pleased. He could drink without measure. And the chapel, the heart of the castle. There one would find iron candlestands with unlit votives of remembrance, each small candle waiting for a family member to light for a loved one long ago passed on. A large crucifix of iron and bronze adorning a wall of stacked stone. Perhaps tapestry pillows, embroidered by Emma's mother, would soften the wooden benches upon which the family would sit to pray and meditate. Perhaps Emma and her family would sing a sacred hymn to commemorate the crowning of Charlemagne on Christmas Day in the year 800. Charlemagne, Charles the Great, was, after all, king of the Franks, from whom the French descended. And might Emma's family have a Christmas tree? Though our Christmas tree tradition was popularized in the 19th century by Queen Victoria's German husband, Prince Albert, According to legend, the tradition might have come a century earlier, when St. Barnabas cut down a pagan tree, or from a tree set up on the feast day of Adam and Eve, December 24th, called a paradise tree, to represent the tree in the Garden of Eden from which Adam and Eve ate the forbidden fruit. Thus, an early medieval Christmas tree would be adorned with apples and communion wafers to represent the remission of sins of the first couple. If Emma's family did have such a tree, it would likely stand by the arch windows in the great hall, next to a stack of gifts soon to be given and received. Gifts to remind everyone of the gifts given by the 3 wise men to the babe in the manger. Yes, this was a season most special, when the lords of the manors could choose to forgive debt, grant a month's rent, or give the peasants the umbles, the leftover parts of the deer, to make their umble pie. It was a time for the nobles to give a Christmas meal to those on their lands, a mince pie, a meat pie with spices, or pottage, peas pudding, and most importantly for the poorer tenants, a dinner with 2 meats. For the Duke's Christmas feast, his fortunate guests might enjoy roast oxen or a wild boar's head as the centerpiece of his high table. Lesser nobles would likely serve their guests the next best thing, a large pie in the shape of a boar's head. Rich or poor, in every village, on every land, the wee folk and the grown folk enjoyed riddles and storytelling, games and music, whether in the castle, the manor house, or in a peasant hut that had no latches, for all were welcome there. Dice games of chance, games of noughts and crosses, X's and O's, what we call tic-tac-toe, darts for the skilled enjoyed by men and ladies, as were checkers, and, of course, chess. From the far country of Wales came the board game backgammon, or Little War, a favorite that involved both chance and skill. Luck came first, but it took strategy to win. The 12 days of Christmas were the days on the calendar between the birth of Christ and the coming of the Magi, the 3 wise men. These special days, these red-letter days, were marked in red on the calendar, for they were the holy days from where we get our word holiday. Then, as today, the 12 days begin December 25th and run through January 6th, the Epiphany, or 3 Kings Day. In Emma's time, the 12 days of Christmas were filled with festivals and feasting. Games for the children, both high-born and low, drifted into evenings of singing by circles of carolers, and drinking the lamb's wool, sweet, spicy apple drink, named for its light color and frothy crown, like the soft appearance of the wool of the lamb. Then, at dark, would be the lighting of large fires from the leftover bones of the feast, the bonfires, the bonfire, festive fires that illuminated the countryside and warmed the revelers. When Christmas Day finally arrived, it was time for the gift-giving. The Duke might give his Duchess a small wooden box tied with cords of red. Inside would be an exquisite necklace of oblong rock crystals, polished translucent, and set in wide silver filigree. Designed like a collar, it would frame the face and lay on the shoulders. From Emma's mother, the Duke might receive a box carved from whalebone. Inside may be a large drum brooch of gilded bronze to hold his cloak securely in cold winter days, perhaps paired with a hunting knife with a handle of elk antler carved with gripping beasts or a wolf head. A parcel of soft cloth tied with brown and green cords might be for Emma's brother Richard. Inside, a comb and case of carved antler, its swirls of color polished smooth. The comb would fit perfectly in its curved base. When both pieces were joined, the set looked like a small longship. And for young Emma, her first piece of jewelry, a Viking-style filigree pendant of pure silver that could be worn 2 ways. Filling the entire disc on one side would be intricately fashioned twists and knots. On the other side, filigree swirls in pinwheel design. and then Christmas dinner. In the dining hall, the great table would be set with the Duke's finest. A row of candles the length of the table would flicker invitingly and illumine hammered silver plates and bronze goblets. After everyone was seated, the servants might bring large trays of roasted swan and woodcock, covered in butter and saffron, sprigs of rosemary placed as feathers on the wings. Next would come steaming bowls of vegetables, all grown on castle lands. Cabbages, leeks, parsnips, beetroot, and lentils, seasoned with garlic and parsley. And, of course, wine. No French meal would be complete without it. The Duke of Normandy would likely make a toast. Centuries ago, he might say, St. Martins of Tours spread both Christianity and the planting of vineyards in France, and we are the beneficiaries. If the meal could not be finer, dessert would prove it so. Yuletide pudding, rich with egg yolks and currants, spiced with cinnamon and nutmeg, and topped with warm, smooth custard. Many times in her long life, often filled with war, upheaval, and tragedy, Emma might have remembered the enchantments of Christmastide in Normandy. How she must have wished the season could go on forever, that interlude of happiness and peace. Perhaps she reflected on how the burning of the Yule logs counted down the days, one each day for the 12 days, trying not to count the days remaining. Just bask in the glow of candlelight, bask in the glow of memories. And no matter if one is wished Merry Christmas or Happy Christmas, Queen Emma would have wished one and all, including you and me, NOEL.
An exciting new season of Stones and Bones is right around the corner. Join us in 2022 for Season 2, when Deborah will meet you on the white cliffs of Dover, for a fun look back to Emma's first day on English soil, when she squares off for the first time with her arch-nemesis in a conflict as ancient as the Greek parable of two natural enemies, the fox and the hedgehog. A quick reminder, lest any listener confuse the podcast with a history textbook or a biography. A disclaimer is posted on the website which states the content of the narrative is based on a novel, the genre, historical fiction. The vast majority of the content is fact-based. Where the historical record is vague, creative license has been applied to provide thoughtful and thorough content to supplement the story.